continues with a growing understanding of harms and works to challenge the legacies of colonialism in order to move forward in the true spirit of community. Okay, so the first order of business on the agenda is the approval of the April minutes. Does anyone have any additions or corrections?
No.
Is it for May or it's May 1st? May 2025? Okay. I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? No? Okay, all in favor of approving the April minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, next on the agenda here is appearances of interested persons. I see nobody. Nobody here today? That's okay. Janie?
Hello.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, since there is nobody here today, we're gonna move on to item 4. We are gonna go ahead and assess the Community Engagement Action Plan and the Youth Engagement Action Plan. Do we have any committee reports? No. Are there any additions or corrections that we want to recommend to, let's look at the Community Engagement Action Plan first. So this is a template to help us create action plans. Now, I know we are meeting with the council, the Kaiser City Council, for our work session, so I'm not sure if they have a specific template we would like to follow. I created this in anticipation that we would have to create multiple action plans for different areas, so we can move to keep this template, and if so, obviously update it to fit our needs. If we don't feel like we need to have this template, that's also okay. But, just my thought process was if we have a streamlined process to create those action plans, then we can just, you know, sort of copy and paste things, so. Okay, yeah,
So this was just recently created, it's not, you just created and first came on board with the committee. It has not, okay. Has anybody had any input at all with this template or comments?
I had just asked a couple of folks, like, in my circle to check it out. One was a teacher, from McNary, but otherwise, no, it's been pretty minimal, so there are suggestions to get that checked out.
Dawn, can I ask, excuse me, sorry, is there anything on previously, you said that we don't know if any, the city has any or city council has a template, can you confirm that or?
Yeah, there hasn't been anything. This is new. It's
Okay.
the resolution was updated recently and the council had asked that the action items be included.
Okay, thank you.
And, right, thank you, Jane. I don't know how to pronounce it, now, right?
Jane is.
Jane, thank you, is that, when my recommendation is when we're going over this, is that we have the city council, committee purposes that we're cross-referencing, so you'll find those on the work session.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
it might be a good idea that we have a starting point when we meet with them, with the council. So then go ahead and provide a motion to you that we go ahead and accept the action plan as it stands now, with the understanding that it can be altered or changed on Monday after our work session.
I second that.
Yeah.
I might recommend we hold off on that formal motion as this hasn't been reviewed at all by city staff. So it might be important. I mean, we can bring it to the council if you folks choose. It just might be a little preliminary at this point. This is the first opportunity you folks have had to provide any comments. So I'd hate to bring something that's not ready for prime time.
But is that not the expectation though, to bring something to the table where we can determine if it's a starting point? I mean, obviously we have it. I guess my question is what would be the process? Like we send them an email with this information so they can review it before, or bringing it to the table when we meet on the 9th, the 9th. So what would be the actual process for that? Because we obviously have it, so I'm wondering why we can't use it.
Sure, good comment. I mean, like I say, if you folks feel like you're ready to move forward with something, great. I know it'd be a walk on at this point, as it wouldn't be included in the packet. And we'd have to also say, it hasn't been reviewed at all by city staff. So we've got no opportunity. You guys would be kind of carrying the whole load yourselves.
Sure.
Loretta?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I, will agree with Tim that if this is a rough outline and presented at the work session, then we could review it as a council and a committee. And council can have it in the, like, we really like this, but maybe this could be before we just adopted it. So,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Because the way that it would work, like if we adopted it, then it would have to be presented to the Cuyahoga City Council to essentially vote on.
And essentially say, okay, this, with all of us saying, okay, this lines up with this, and because this is new, this is something, if chair decides to go through these and we like them, we can say, we went over this as a committee, we really like this, what are your thoughts, what is some feedback from the council?
Sure.
So more of a collaborative. So if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Madam Chair, I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay. Sorry, Tim, so you said that if we did, would we be able to bring this draft document to the work session? Am I understanding that we are able to?
You could walk it on as a document to present there, but no one will have the opportunity to review it beforehand.
So this won't be something that we'll bring to the work session. Okay, good to know. So my understanding then is we can take, the next month to, analyze the action plan, get some feedback from other folks that you think, might have some good ideas. That kind of, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Tim, you're talking about the Cuyahoga City staff also have an opportunity to review the document. So if we come up with an update or feedback or change this template, what would be the process for us to prevent actually staff, therefore to city council before moving forward with anything else?
Sure, good question. So I would foresee a process that you folks do your deliberations, get a document, somewhere, 75, 80, 90% of the way done. And at that point, I'll go ahead and start presenting it to the city staff, specifically the legal department, to make sure there's nothing glaringly wrong that will go sideways on us quickly. And so that's really the main purpose. I would anticipate we would get it at a certain point of the meeting. You'd say, okay, let's go ahead and get some additional feedback. I'd give it to the staff, come back to the next meeting, we would approve it. If you folks like the additional changes, and then at that point, it would go to the city council.
And what would be our time frame? So from if or draft is presented to you and you go through your process of legal and stuff, what is, and I know it's budget season, but what is our timeline, so to speak? Is it a process that will take 30 days, 40 days? We have like an idea of what it would look like for us. So if you were to schedule meetings ahead, we're presenting this now, we may hear back next month, like, so we can have an idea of time frame for us, it will take 1, 2, or 3 meetings or 30 days and so on. Thank you.
Excellent question. It would really depend on the complexity of the document. If you're looking at something that's, 100 pages, it might take us a little bit of time to get through it. And with what we're currently working on with the templates, I would anticipate we'd be done within a week, 2 weeks at most, depending on whether we have a really busy schedule. So I would anticipate that whatever you folks get ready with, it would be back ready for the next meeting.
Thank you. Brenda?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My suggestion would be, we have this work session on Monday, and so we'll be in front of the council. What exactly does this committee want to talk about then? So even if it is this, it's not a document, but if it's this primary goal of SMART, that's a great part. If you went through those SMART, because if this is, and then, so because you don't really have a whole document, but say this is our discussion for the CDEC meeting, and to just kind of outline that as a committee. And what that looks like, your top part. If you went through these questions and had some notes,
Oh, okay.
so that way we have something we're bringing to the council and, something of substance that can be some action items.
So then I'm curious then with, item 4B with the youth engagement action plan, that's gonna be the same situation, right? We need to take time to review the document and come back with suggestions.
So
Yeah,
We did get that one a lot closer at the last meeting, and there was a formal motion. I did run it by the legal department. They did have some concerns. Just wanted to make sure that you folks are aware that this would be a formal public document. Every survey that someone gives back to us would be a public record, that someone could potentially go back and say, I want all of the surveys from, whatever time period. And it rose some issues of, do we really want to ask some of the questions on there specifically about disabilities, those kind of things, especially if people's names and contact information is attached to it.
yeah, Councilor Rob?
So any surveys that are done, we need to make sure that as a committee, we're going through the proper channels and that we're going through Tim or the manager Brown and they're clearing it with the city attorney. So we know if it ever comes back, where are we getting our sources?
Okay, that's helpful to know.
So anything that comes out, because you are all representing the CDEC committee, that we have to stay in the lane.
Okay,
Excuse me. So, and how do we get these two documents to the city? Just verbally or via email and say, Tim, can you get city staff to take a look at this, or do we?
Correct. Basically, once we get to the point where you folks have some kind of a consensus to say, yep, we feel pretty good about this. We've talked to our constituents, whoever they may be, we're ready to get some additional feedback and also get ready to take it to the council. That would probably be the appropriate time to involve the city staff.
But what we can't do is just put out a survey without clearing it and making sure that the council knows because of the public record.
Makes sense.
Was this a survey template that you created too? Okay, I just learned about that.
I'll just say I'd never seen a survey. Is that something we should be doing like as a group, like creating these documents so that as we present it, it's something that we all agree on?
If that's what you wanted to do, but it needs to go through the proper channels. So if this is a survey, it would be like anything else. If you wanted to do, have a parade float, that's the deck, then we need to go to the city manager, clear with the attorney, and then it goes to council for approval.
Right.
So we have to make sure that we're not going, I don't know, but rogue.
Sure.
I'm sure there's a better word than I could use, but that we're staying in the lane of what we're here to accomplish and who we're representing and how.
So we have these bones that we're working with, foundation, we're taking this to review it, alter, make edits, speak with community people, to kind of add more to it.
Sure.
And then once we feel confident to bring that to the city council, then they'll go through their process.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, and just to confirm, these are surveys that will be public records, these are action plans that will be available to people once approved and so on and so forth. And are these just for the action, including the youth? Is that the one we're prioritizing, or is that the one we're just using as an example to work with?
From the discussion from the Tiger City Council, it seems like they did want the youth engagement strategy. The intention behind the questionnaire as well, the last, CDE committee, we were having discussions about how we can better understand who is coming to city events, like how are they being engaged, how do they know about the event? Just trying to get more of an awareness. So it was just, but, so that was that discussion, and so, from that was the template that was created. We don't even have to use it if we feel like it's not going to be helpful or get us that information that we're looking for. Again, it was really just to get an idea of like demographics and again, how they know about city events.
Okay.
Don't forget.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My recommendation would be because of having, kind of starting from scratch and really getting some action items, is that tonight you talk about this, maybe come up with a couple action items, whether it be we want to have a Fulton holiday parade or whatnot. That way you have it on the calendar, you're focusing on, and then we start that ball rolling rather than, an easy roll. We should do this, we should do that, but if we have 2 or 3 things that we can bring to council, we'd like to be in the holiday light parade, or maybe we want to host a back to school. I'm just saying something.
Right.
in your way. But then those action items, and this is how we think we can impact and bring people together culturally.
Okay, yeah, let me hear that. So bringing it back, at this point, we don't need to take a motion on this, correct? This is not adopted. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, Chair.
Yes.
The only thing I would add to the action template would be the who. Who's gonna implement? Who's gonna be responsible? Whether it's city staff, anyone.
Doesn't want it.
Person right across. But, just to make it clear as to who will be held accountable and responsible to make sure that the action plan was completed.
I think that's a wise observation. So we're gonna go ahead and move on then to.
Two questions actually, I don't know if we can answer this today. When I'm thinking about the survey, where I think it should be anonymous or people disclose who they are.
I think that's a really good question, because I think maybe we need to step back and decide, kind of like how Councilor Cross is saying, really, I think would decide what it is that we are actually focused on. I'm not sure if these documents are getting us to where we need to go, but we don't exactly know where we're going yet, so I think that's where we're, because, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Would this be something that, and I watched the video about like being too careful about how many of us are in the same room, and if we all decide yes on something, there's like some red tape around that. But could this be something that we just sat down for coffee and try to identify what we as a team want to do here, and then use that as like a true north for ourselves? 'Cause engaging the youth really isn't that hard, right? Like video game, basketball, a soccer club, something, right?
Yeah.
We could get all the high schools to send us 15 kids to clean up a park. But like, and writing up a survey would take 30 minutes, like, hey, does it need to be anonymous? Probably, because high school kids don't want to tell you their first and last name and be honest. So I don't know how that works, like,
I think that that's a great question for the work session, because the city attorney can set the parameters and say, this is how it looks, and before we send surveys, before we put this work into the survey, know what the legality and know what the parameters are.
Yeah.
So until we do that, we need to know what that looks like.
Cool.
So I think, in my opinion, that's a great, so if we came up with a survey, how is that distributed? Who gets this money from, and are we following the legal requirements?
Liability too, yeah.
Or we can work, we're putting all, we could put in all this great work and then.
Right.
That's the wrong term.
Yes.
So now we can-
Yes.
So for now, then we're gonna move off the survey, wait until Monday, have a work session with the counselors, and then brainstorm again, if we still want to move forward, have your documentation so on. Okay, yeah, thank you.
And I'm down for coffee, can we like verify if we can get together and like have a conversation?
It's like a majority thing, right? Like, we can't make a
And we're not making
decision.
motion, but we're just running ideas.
Right. Right, the challenge, public meeting law is really no fun. It takes the fun out of everything, I've decided. It really limits the ability, the purpose of the public meeting law is to make sure that all of the deliberations, conversations really happen and is open and available to the public to participate. I guess not participate, but listen in. So that really limits your ability to get together and do a lot of work outside of what happens during these meetings. I believe it's, you can't, I know the city council can't have more than 3 people, which is 3 out of 7 get together and talk about an issue outside of a city council meeting. And I think we're 7 people as well.
Yes.
So that would be the same here. We couldn't get more than 3 people to talk about an issue. And you couldn't have 3 people talk and then go talk to a 4th person, in a separate meeting. That would go sideways for us. So it really does kind of take the fun out of all of this, unfortunately.
But what you, thank you, Madam Chair, but what you could do is if you identify it again, like event, survey, is pair and choose, and then come back as choose and discuss among each other.
Right, like we're bringing it back to the table, we're bringing the ideas back, like we had a discussion about this, like. I think it's also like getting to know each other and the ideals of where events that you have attended or that you have attended, things that we all have our talents at this table, right?
You could identify like 3 and break into groups of 3 in the next month and then come back and discuss it.
I mean, what would be the implement? I don't know. I just don't want to do anything that's going to get us in a bit of a knot, but what if we had a live Google Doc and everybody was just like invited to that Google Doc to brain dump into that Google Doc?
Can I interrupt?
Oh, strong no.
That would go sideways.
No.
Great idea. I'd love the idea.
Okay, no, yep.
And
No.
I think this for Tara, maybe, Madam Chair as well. So I've been part of the budget committee for over a year now. And I think at the end of last year, there was an email circulating where we participated of a public meetings training, which breaks down what we can and cannot do, which is basically what Tim's saying. So Tim and Dawn and Chair, is this something that maybe needs to circulate for all of us who are new here? Oh, I've done a little bit before, but maybe that, public meeting material, so we all get the trainings and we can together better understand what we can and cannot do, which, yeah, it sounds silly, we can get together for coffee, but yeah, there's a conflict of interest now, public, vote here, so would that be something that maybe help us out here too, as far as communication and our thresholds and boundaries here? Thank you.
Yes, you're invited, encouraged actually to attend, all of you, not just Elaine, to attend those trainings. They are free. There's some available online. I can send you the link so you can sign up and do it online or go to a facility. And I did send out to the new members some ethics information.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where you saw that, yeah. So I can resend that email too, so you can take a look at that.
So, is there any more discussion about this? Okay. We're gonna go ahead then and move on to action item 5, which is creating a bit of a calendar for us, which is kind of what we were talking about, right? The timelines where we want to get things done. Counselor Cross, so and you were just throwing out these suggestions, but like having like a flow or doing something for schools. I think I'm trying to kind of grasp, so we're an advisory board, so what are I think I just want, like, what actions should we be taking, I guess, in that context?
So let me use, for example, like safety, bike the traffic bike rate. They will get together and they will do the helmet and but come to council and talk about it. So get together, this sounds really good, teach kids safety for bikes and helmets and giveaways. So whatever that looks like, it could be, for example, there's a big paint party at the Big Toy, right? We want to have a table there where, and maybe, if, that might be too quick to turn around, but for example, is this survey approved, you have a table, and then you're actually engaging with all the people that are painting down at the Big Toy. So, but making sure that we're doing it in the right process legally, but, I would think that any of those community events like Doggy Day at the Park or, National Night Out, you know, that you have, it could even be something that you want to put together a logo, and you want to wear your shirt somewhere, so people start talking about how to get engaged. And that's where your creative brainstorm or, you know, what does it mean to you?
But then I'm wondering, it's like, if that is our goal, right, to have a logo, how is that advising on anything? Like, those are things to engage in the community, but
So I think it's how you use that, so if you have a table, if you had a shirt, and if you're using that, working a table and whatever, hand out their material, these are coming up and have you heard about that? It's been going on for 10 years, no, this is the first time I've heard about it, well, but why is this the first time that you've heard about it, what part do you live in now? But information gathering, so you're having the data.
It also solidifies us
Mhm.
in the public eye. We're recognizable behind that table. We're just not John Doe Public, but we have information to provide, and we're a group of people that are trying to better the community.
yeah.
You know, I wouldn't think it'd be, you know, when we're doing events, it'd be a good idea to wear it.
And are these events that are being put on by different associations, organizations, city council in particular? Is this like a catch-all kind of survey for all types of events that are going on? Or just specifically tied into if there is a action plan or, tied into, I mean, there's things that are annually happening, like a parade and things like that, or.
And it might start with that. Do you know about this? Pick 5 or 6, how many days of the park or the cleanup that we do? Who really knows about it? And if they don't know about it, how do we get them there?
Right, and so again, the intention with the previous group was that this would be for, I believe it was 3 city events. So our scope was for 3 events that we would have, you know, this questionnaire or have this document.
But not limited to, right?
Correct.
But something that you can actually pull the data from, if you're hosting a Wednesday night community dinner, and you've gone 4 events and you keep seeing the same answers, you can pull that data because you know there's 4 different groups of people.
That's right. Is it something like I can have at the paper?
Well, as long as we
When
go
people
through,
come in and not say I have a suggestion box type thing, and they just drop it in.
and that's where the work session would come in, is if you want to bring the data and how are we connecting with the different parts of town? What does that look like? Can we give it out at different events, and how do we need to collect that?
Because we could secure it at the office, that nobody looks at those, and just haul the box over to
So
the
that's,
office.
that's a question for City Attorney Joe, but I think that, I mean, we all know, right?
I just
We
think
know
it's
it's the
more.
same answer, because I did not know this existed, and we keep seeing that, and that means you're engaging by communicating.
Yeah,
I figure the more information we get from different areas and different people, the better off we're gonna be.
Right. I think that I think that from what I know, Council, they will love getting the information in, because that's how we're going to know Where our reasons lie. Where our growth potential.
There you go.
Not me, just as growth potential.
What might be helpful, to answer your question, it can be either, it can be one all-inclusive for every group, or you can customize something. What might be helpful, and I kind of anticipate this might be part of the discussion next Monday, is to look at the resolution. I think you have a copy of the agenda for the next meeting. You can look at it, and I think what would be helpful for this group is to go through the resolution through the appendix A, where it identifies the certain action plans that the city council is looking for. And then you as a group can prioritize and say, hey, these are the ones that I think we should work on over the next 6 to 12 months or something. And at least as a group come together to say, hey, we believe, youth engagement, if that's what you folks choose, we want to work on that. And so that way you can say, we're working on something from the list and kind of scope it down a little bit so you know what to work on. And then you can come back to the next meeting and say, okay, I've thought about this, I've looked around, asked people, talked to people about youth engagement. These are the things that I think would be great in an engagement plan. Then we can start building a template that way. And that might be helpful. And then Monday night, when you get together with the city council, you folks can say, hey, we got together, that these things are really important from the appendix A that we want to start working on. How do you feel about this, city council? Do you think this is a great idea? Or is there something that's more important that you think we should be working on?
Is there any old data from the last couple of groups that did this, like events that they participated at or surveys that they had or?
We do have some survey information, and I can try to pull it. I think we had a survey out at Kaiser Fest, I believe, 2 years ago. So I'll pull that information for the next meeting.
That'd be cool. Yeah, because it'd be interesting to see what events have already been participated in, the information we got from those ones.
Mhm.
And then we can even not really avoid, but maybe that event we don't do again, so we don't get duplicate information.
Good thought.
Tim, that was a really helpful explanation and helped guide that. So what I heard is that we can review the purpose and then decide on, 3 different items. And then that will help guide us in our action. So is that something we should do now, talk about? Okay.
Yeah, I would just consider it a brainstorming session right now to say, okay, look on, these are the action plans that we're looking for. Out of these, what really appeals to us and feels like it'd be a high priority to work on over the next year.
Thank you. That is really helpful. Does anybody have, from looking at the purposes, does any of them stand out? I think choosing 3 could be realistic. If anyone has a different opinion, that's totally fine too.
In terms of the work session, the one that we did, the page 6.
Oh, one. There you go.
But it would be under the appendix A,
Okay.
and probably the items under number 4 are the key ones to start digging through.
Sorry, I was writing something.
So, under that work session, page 6, like, you have to know something before.
So we're gonna
find like 3 things to concentrate on.
of these. Any, 1 through 5, any of the others, we're just gonna pick 3, and those are going to help guide us in the actions that we are trying to prioritize moving forward for the year. So let's say we choose to, we develop promotional content specific to outreach and engagement for council consideration and approval. So, right, so that's our action, and so we just break that down. Okay, what would that look like? Is there a specific message that we're trying to relay? And then, we would build it out from there, would we want it to be virtual, paper, you know, more of the details in that sense.
Going back to just a little bit, I think we're talking about the previous, group were intending to participate in 3 events, if I understood correctly. Do we know which events were they? They're trying to participate, or what events are they that we were in a way expected to participate?
The, city events that we had talked about were Soggy Day in the Park, the, what is it, city cleanup?
Yeah, and that's two just happened.
And
So we're
then-
moving forward from
Right,
July to June.
yeah,
No, some days still coming out though. It's on 18th.
so that would be the third city
Okay.
event, so.
So we're going to Soggy Day, sounds good. I mean,
Why not?
We go there and have a table, wear a t-shirt, we're picking up garbage, I guess I'm kind of water.
No, that's totally fine, I mean, yes,
Well, it's Public Works Day on the 18th, and at this point, we're definitely not prepared as a group. At least I feel like we're not necessarily prepared to do anything. I think this is setting us up for the future for next year.
Oh, okay.
So I think if I recall correctly, it was Soggy Day in the Park, City Hall cleanup, and then Public Works Day are the 3 main things that the city itself helps sponsor. There's a lot of other events going on that we might be able to tag along to, but those are just the ones that the city has some control over.
Is there something against us creating our own event? Just me. The one thing that I would really like to see come out of this committee is an event similar to, it's called Downtown Worldly, where you bring all nationalities together. We have a beautiful park out back, we could do that, where you can learn about different cultures and different foods and so forth. You know, and have it completely free for people to attend. And the reason all cultures, what I find is sometimes when you do it for one community specifically, a lot of the other community believes sometimes that it's not for them. It's specifically for that group of people. So doing it for everybody, you bring everybody in and they can pick and choose who they want. Anyway.
so if we were to do that, that looks like it would fall under 4C, collaborating in community opportunities, that conversation, celebration, relationship building, and community events. So if we choose that to be one of our, you know, goals that we focus on, that would for sure fall under our purpose. Does anyone else have any others that look, like they would be helpful or achievable?
I think you mentioned number 5, I think something that we can start brainstorming. I think I'm also gonna go into and check with legal before we do anything, but I think I think the first step in engaging is communicating. So I think that I think maybe it's one that you may need to prioritize, so people know there's a committee and these are intentions and start putting the word out there.
I appreciate that perspective.
Well, we definitely talked about data being important, this seems like a missing link. So talking about metrics, yearly reports, kind of going over the data that is being gathered can help us build the communication. So I feel like it kind of ties it in. If data is what we're focusing on, then I think it should be talked about.
I think
On,
with D, or sorry, you were talking about E, right? Health development
Yeah.
metrics. I think that could kind of streamline into 5, or sorry, C, collaborating community opportunities, have conversation. I think with data, we can know what people want. And that makes it far easier to create something.
Right. I think it's kind of like the chicken and the egg and the, you know, what kind of put first.
You have to have an event to collect data, but you have to have data
I
to make
know,
an
I
event.
know.
Madam Chair, I'd like to add up to the back, to the, three. Identify leaders in the community of specific interest groups and getting their buy-in immediately, pretty much, gets their group as a buy-in and can help and communicate with us information that's important to them. So I think that that would definitely be a place that we could use information from and have assistance getting our word out and assistance getting information back in.
I appreciate that. Yeah. My thought too with the metrics, I mean, we do need data because we know that objective evidence is really important. I go back though to the legality of it. So for what this committee's capacity is, that would be my concern. So I appreciate then the, option F. We could definitely also get a good sense of data collection that way.
Yeah, so, the city, when we have our work session, you could even ask that you do want to collect that, and I'm sure there's a way that the city can put out that survey.
Oh, interesting.
Just, like we do with the strategic plan, so that they can help facilitate, as long as it goes through council. These are five, whatever you decide, 5 to 10 questions, right? But the city can facilitate that, so it doesn't take us any further.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. Thank you. Councilor Cross. Let's see.
So if we're brainstorming here, but when we come back on Monday, to me, what I'm hearing is, we're gonna talk about promotional content, so we can put the word out there about the community. We're talking about data and metrics, which is, it's above our pay grade here because we are stuck until we go to the due process, so we get it done. But then to me, it sounds like think about the promotional. The first item here is listening to understand, which I think is our priority. We are not gonna do anything around listening, so in my head, when I'm understanding, make my list here, so when we come back on Monday, we wanna talk about developing promotional content. We are going to listen to understand what the community wants and needs. And with that, then we go into, we need data. So how can the city and the council legal help us collect the data so we can proceed with the remainder of the items that is going to the CDC? That is everybody, that's what I'm gathering so far. So does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. Those are the
I
points.
need to make a list.
Yes, so the items that you just mentioned are items that we're bringing to the table for the work session on Monday.
So it's one,
Yeah, 1 and 5, and then we're trying to gather,
then the metrics.
Yeah.
So for number one, the listening to understand. I guess I'm curious, I mean, that to me is,
I think that comes organically,
Yeah.
if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time I'm gonna be meeting with city council, being on a work session. I think the communication will come naturally, I believe. At least that's my expectation.
that, I would agree with that.
It seems like some of these overlap or actually belong together, like 1 and 2. Once you've listened, what are you gonna do with it? You're gonna need to use that information that you heard to create recommendations. And like the matrix, getting information to identify what needs to happen, using leadership of those communities and get us that information. That we felt.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing then is we are going to bring items for B. For. Hold on, that's incorrect. Okay, so you have for E, C, and E. I have B, E, and F, and C circled. So B, C, E, and F. But I think we're just gonna go ahead and stick with three. We can always bring, you know, 4 of them to the work session, and if the Quaker Council, they have a preference, so we can definitely add. Sarah?
Well, like Robin was saying, some of them are intertwined with each other, so, Tim, can you verify for me, these, the purpose items 1 through 5, are these set in stone, or are we brainstorming these where we can put them in a way where one can give us 2, or it kind of progresses into that, or are these set, and this is what we're talking about?
Good question. So this appendix A, came about through deliberation by the city council. And they've taken several swipes at it. I mean, the conversation started back many years ago, when there was a work group put together that decided to create the CDEC committee itself. But this is pretty much set in stone. So these are the kind of the goalposts of what the council wants this group to take care of.
Okay,
Having said that, there is a little bit, I mean, you can't get everything in here as far as their specific intent, and that's why we're kind of getting together with them on Monday night to get clarification, that kind of a thing.
sure.
Make sure that your action plans and goals line up with what their intent is. But yeah, these are all, like, they've been around some of them been around for a while, and some of them are more recent, with the March change to this appendix.
Okay, well, we have a starting point, we brainstormed a couple things, and these are things that we can bring to the table. I feel pretty confident about them.
You too.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is really clarifying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Do I need to call, well, again, we're not voting on that, so no. There are, So, action item 5 is the creation of the calendar. However, we are needing to solidify the 3, items that we need to assess for timeline. So I'm going to go ahead and move to skip this portion because there's information we don't have.
And that's 5B.
5A through D, I think we should touch on neighborhood associations. Oh, that is the, yeah.
Just for my clarification, the items that you brought up that you're gonna bring forth as your priorities for Monday night, are you considering these 1-year kind of goals then? Kind of a shorter term, or are these longer? Obviously, some of these are gonna carry over from year to year as we start doing metrics, that kind of thing, but I just wanna make sure that I'm kind of.
I would think that what we talked about today would somehow become part of the DNA of what this group does. Because long-term for this group to succeed, we need to have metrics and data. We need to have people in the community who we can talk to about things that they've seen or they want. So I think that a little bit about what we talked about in at least purpose under 4 sounds like it's a lot of the DNA of what this group will continue to be.
I would concur. So these are more of your short-term goals than to get this stuff up and running.
Because essentially it would, be either 1 year or 2 years, because 2 years is how long our term limit is. And so after that's up, the next committee can choose to do something different. So, yeah, so what I'm hearing is, it needs to be our 3 goals for this first year. And then we can assess after that first year and adjust if needed. Okay.
Yeah.
So, just really quickly, 5E, the neighborhood associations, I just wanted to bring this up again. To get feedback, to see if you, got a chance to see where your neighborhood association is, and your thoughts on, attending the neighborhood association meetings, when you can. I don't think we want to put any unnecessary expectation on anyone to, attend anything else. Yeah.
Madam Chair, I reached out from the Gobser neighborhood and I reached out to the other Gobser Patty. I did not follow up because the month of May, December, right, there's field trips and everything else, our kids come back there, but I do know they don't have any meetings during the summer. So I still like to meet with her, but it kind of puts us a little bit on hold doing anything because they don't have meetings through summer. So I guess all this to say is I'm going to try to, but as far as participant or doing anything more engaging, we are stuck until they resume the meetings again, which I think is August or September, at least for the Gubser one. And I'm assuming I think it's the same for a couple other ones as well.
Yeah, good information.
I attended the Northwest Kaiser Neighborhood Association. It was on May 21st. They have a good group of people that show up and Griffin does a good job of moving things forward. They have a presenter, I think every time. But one of the things, so they too stop meeting and they'll resume again in September. But there were some things there that not necessarily was all that, well, it's important, but not a necessary fit there. But they're doing things like starter kits for National Night Out for anybody who wants to participate. Hirsch has the junior ROTC. Through the summer, they're going to be taking care of any graffiti in that neighborhood. And then they're planning joint meetings with, 4 meetings through the next 25 to 26 for, group meetings, which I think maybe we should attend also, just, or at least a representative. I'm happy to go. And anyway, it was a good meeting to go to. I learned a lot of stuff about what they're doing and that they are very active. And it seems to me that some of this information, I'm not sure if they all share, but it should. I tend to talk to all of the chairs of the neighborhood associations, and it's like, how come Gubser's not doing pedestrian flags? I mean, anyway, it is a good exchange of information, I think, that when you go.
Thank you for that information. Yeah, I agree. I think it would be great to be able to, streamline those communications between associations. So I guess just moving forward, if you'd like to attend the neighborhood associations, to get that feedback, it could be valuable. Counselor Cross?
And I will make a note, sorry, just so you all know that a lot of these neighborhoods don't meet in the summer, these associations, because June, July, and August off. So just keep that in mind.
Okay. Moving on to, item 6. We kind of went over this, but this is essentially questions, comments, that we want to bring to the work session. I'm not sure if you all have had a chance to sort of reflect or watch the last work session that we had. If not, also totally okay. But if you have anything that you want to make sure we as a group bring together, that would be great.
So Madam Chair. I'll be too much today.
No,
Not at all.
not at all.
I personally think, again, there's been changes, we're a new committee, a new group, I mean, been here before, but to me, I wanted the first question to city council, what is our expectations to us, right? We're all nominated, and we know we have an idea of what we want to accomplish and hopes to, but I think it would be nice to hear exactly, okay, this is what we expect or hope you guys to accomplish or to work on it.
Thank you, I'm Sherry Lane. Really go over that page 6 because the council was pretty hard on those letters that you just, so really, those are the focus and obviously it's a working document. So really you identify, so what that looks like in regards to relationship building, and that's for you to figure out what that engagement looks like. Again, if whether it's the community dinner or whether it's having each of you putting a team together every neighborhood night out and talking and making sure you plan it, kind of how the councilors go and visit each neighbor, like divide and conquering, or getting a subcommittee plus one that is going to be part of. I know Kaiser Elementary has a culture club. So whatever that looks like with all your amazing brainstorming ideas, I think that that's for you to identify the need and bring to council. This is your plan, see their plan on what good engagement looks like.
Thank you. There's a question I want. Then this is on our second meeting. We're gonna have our meeting again on Monday or session, but is it almost feels too premature to have a solid plan right now? I mean, we can brainstorm ideas, but again, this is our second meeting. We're gonna have our first work session Monday, so I think maybe we're gonna get a better maybe a better grasp of what, have more ideas of what we're going to do, because right now we still talk about what we want to do, what our possibilities are, what are, I feel like there's still things up in the air, so I'm excited, but at some point, like, we have worked with nothing in a way, because we don't have a solid plan yet.
I don't, I think what I've heard is that you want to collect data and you want to do some kind of survey. So that's for you, you can absolutely discuss that with council. How can we do that? How do we make sure that we're staying in the legal guidelines? I heard also that you want to do some events. So whether that's 2 or 3 events before, you could even go with it. If you all decided right now brainstorming, we want to make sure that we're at 2 events before, by the end of the year, that we own those events, whether it's an existing event or not existing. And I did hear, promotion of contact, so it could be, you know, I'm Kaiser, whatnot, ask me how to be involved. Whatever you all decide, that's where you go to the council and say, maybe, could we have some marketing, or can we have some dollars for this? Because we would really like to do a float, we really want to get the word out. But that's where you're all, that you're part of that engagement, of course, that's what you're saying.
Okay.
And you said it too, Robin, I'd like a mini Worldbeat, we know Worldbeat's been around forever, but what does a small version look like that maybe we build upon?
I agree. I think it is a good starting point. I think we are bringing items to the table. If anything, I feel like, not that power has anything to do with it, but I do feel like we have the upper hand on bringing this idea. We're just kind of placing it out there and just kind of waiting for to get the okay in order to expedite it. So I'm also excited about it, but I don't feel like we're not bringing something to, I do feel like we're at a good point.
You're asking the right questions, you
Right.
have the good intent, you're driving forward.
We just gotta get the okay to be able
And
to
make
start.
sure,
So,
and
yeah.
making sure that, the processes are being.
So we're gathering data, we're gathering data, we're gathering data. At some point, we would need to stop gathering data to compile.
Mhm.
But I'm assuming also maybe we're compiling as we're gathering. So at what point are we using that data? And at what point do we go, we've got 4 months worth of data, we could do this with, you know, this is what they're saying, we could do this.
I've seen different interpretations of it depending on what we're wanting it for. I think us honing in on that idea, it could be through a fiscal year, it could be quarterly, it could be through a season, it could be just the type of event that you're doing. I think consistency is gonna be key. Especially getting 1 to 2 of the same events, types of information, you can see if more people are showing up, the retention of the type of events. So I think there's different variations of it. I think getting a lay of the land, kind of knowing that we already have city council specific events, the ones that we may create on our own, the neighborhood association. Like I can already see it kind of building up. It's a good foundation, but we also still have to build that as we go.
Right.
So it may be us giving ourselves a realistic timeline, like let's give ourselves the first 90 days worth of events and information and consistency and go from there. And then we can gauge that and see where that data can go and how we collect it. So I think it can work in many different aspects, but I think as we get it, it might be more clear.
Oh, and I totally agree. I just think that sometimes groups gather data.
And then you sit on it.
Sure.
And it sits on a shelf somewhere,
Sounds like
nobody
a
ever uses it.
I think that,
So-
well, you can do the events and the gathering data at the same time.
Exactly,
So one of
exactly.
they don't work together.
It almost works with 4A, the collaborate with council, city committees, commissions, neighborhood associations to increase active participation and recommend culturally responsive action. So that is where we could, like that data collection. For example, you know, we gather the data and then we go ahead and, you know, every 4 months or whatever, we're bringing maybe a one-page report to, you know, the neighborhood association or something. But just an idea. So it would almost feel like if we're going to have, metrics as one of our committee goals, it would almost make sense to also have 4A with that, just have a place for that data. But I think, again, we're really needing to understand if data collection is really the priority.
Well, we don't have data collection, we don't know where we're going, and we don't know what the community wants.
Yeah.
Because it's not really up to us, I mean,
Yeah.
I think we all have a different idea which direction we should go in.
Mhm.
And so we're really here for Kaiser rights. Let's find out what they want and then move forward. So, yeah, I think that's really important, the metric part.
Sarah?
Okay, thank you. I'll just go back to the, agenda item, regarding questions. I think, like Elaine was saying, clarifying the expectations, which we know, we're bringing a game plan. I think more questions will come up out of the work session. I think it's one of those things that we're just kind of waiting for it to happen until, so that we can do more stuff.
I don't even know what questions to ask.
No news is good news.
No.
I think we're good. I
We
think we're
should have
good.
expectations, so what do they expect out of us?
Well, like,
Well, I said, basically, what, please, Councilor Scrivens, so this, the document, yeah,
the appendix A,
yeah,
what
So
we
this is-
highlighted in brainstorm,
sorry.
I get that, but once we have all this information, what are their expectations from us?
Yeah, what's the brainchild?
Yeah,
What's the big?
what's the end
But
result?
I guess
Do you
that's
want
not,
us creating an event with that information?
but that's not for them to decide.
No.
That is for us to decide.
So if you look at the agenda and the purpose, that is where you come in as this is advisory committee.
This is what we would like.
So I mean, I'm just throwing this out there, we take data, we are really weak in the Latino community, the South, like, we need to concentrate. So then you decide what that action item looks like for you, this is where you come in and you say, okay, council, we've done this many surveys, this many people, this is what the pie chart looks like, and this is where we have an immense growth potential.
I, again, just want to reflect back. I think if we're gonna do the data collection, we need to include 4A, because then that feeds into our advisory capacity
Mhm.
to advise on increasing active participation and recommend culturally responsive actions.
Yeah.
That also feeds back into information that we might gather from neighborhood associations. So that, I would really say those need to go together. In regards to the community event that you had mentioned, Yeah, I guess just thinking about like, what would you want that? I know, you mentioned an idea, but, I think again, just understanding the capacity of this committee, something like maybe a town hall or something could fit into that category, but,
I think, you know, what the neighborhood association's doing 4 town hall meetings
yeah.
in a year, what, there, this 25 to 26, is definitely important, and we should have representation there. But I think that once we get our data, I think that we need to show Kaiser that we're an active committee, that we're listening. And I think a lot of it is understanding each other, and that's a big thing. And putting together something small like All Nations or World Beat would definitely show Kaiser that we're listening, bringing people together and they can learn. It doesn't have to be big. You know, Kaiser has maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6, different groups, I don't know. But they could all be represented there, and wouldn't necessarily be the most difficult to get.
So, thank you, Madam Chair. I think if you can read this over and over, maybe that should be our first question Monday. How can you gather data so we have an idea of our demographics we're working with and how to engage? Because we keep circling back to different data, the information. So should our first thing on Monday, when you meet a city council like that, really like to have a survey so we can reach out to people, so we know where demographics, where here, what people are expecting, what they're frustrating, what are opportunities. And then from that point, we can maybe start narrowing down. Okay, we're gonna have some events, or maybe we have our own events, or maybe we wanna participate in 3 events with the city. And maybe in a year from now, these were accomplished in a year, this is the day we have. How can we do the second year? Because that's what I'm hearing. And we're talking about a lot of things, and that's very exciting, but at the same point, like, we need to start small. Because all the ideas are gonna become overwhelmed, trying to accomplish so many things, and we're not gonna accomplish a lot, or maybe we won't have an impact as you would if you pick one thing. And you start with that and then add another one. So we're picking here what we'd like to work on, but to me, our first question on Monday, especially, we have an opportunity to have a legal question answer is how to collect data. Can we collect data on events? Do we have to have the city put a survey out? And then from there, we can start to have an idea, better understanding how we want to use the data and engage and participate in community. Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Wilson, I appreciate that mindset, starting smaller, a bit more realistic, more manageable this year, so that the second year, maybe it could be a little bit bigger.
Guys are carnivore.
Bearings, right. We'll get crazy with it, so. So it sounds like the data collection, collaboration to, recommend culturally responsive actions and then the promotional content. Sounds pretty more realistic.
I think it's very realistic for first year.
What might be helpful is I can come back at our next meeting with some of just the basic demographic data. With this, I guess it's getting a little bit dated, but we still have some census information. And then also kind of the roll forward from there. We could bring that back, and that could be a starting point. And then you folks could use that to deliberate and see what additional stuff we might want to start collecting. And then we could kind of build a survey from that point.
Yeah, that's great.
I like it.
Yeah,
Show
thank
us
you.
what we got. Going back to the questions, topics, and things we're bringing, to the work session. We're definitely gonna hit that survey, It's something that, again, chicken, egg, survey, the appendix A, things that we're highlighting, the things that you just went over. Clarifying long-term expectations, once all these things are received, I Sounds good.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any other questions.
Yes, Blaine.
No, it's okay.
So how many work sessions do we have with the city councilors? Is this once a year, is it a quarter? Do we know? Thank you.
There isn't any schedule or any set plan for it. I've noticed that it just comes up when it looks like the council's wanting to ask questions or they want to check in with you. And it could be vice versa. Maybe you have a lot to share with them and maybe you want to ask for a work session with them.
So it's requestable.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't see why not. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you have recommendations and stuff, that's we can get motions to them, or if you want to have more discussion, then you can ask for a work session. We can ask them about it.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you, Trigger. And there's also committee reports. You can come in, it doesn't have to be a work session, so the different committees come up and you can address council. This is what we've been working on this last month. These are some ideas, and as you being the liaison, you can send it to me, and if it's something that needs to be addressed or there needs to be a motion, I can get with other councils and put it on the council agenda.
Okay.
So it doesn't necessarily.
I
we
did
don't-
see that at the last, council meeting, is it a certain person that's supposed to come up or anybody
Well, I mean,
representing the
it
committee?
usually the chair or vice chair, just depending. And, but if you came, for example, Greg has this really good idea, whatever, I get A, and then maybe I get with Shamey, I don't have it put on the agenda.
Okay,
If you needed a motion with it, or otherwise, you could just come and during committee reports, you'll see that on the agenda. You could come up and say, this is something we're working on, 2-1, 2-2.
I like it. And Jane, I'm happy to work with you,
Yeah.
collaborating on, depending on our availability and things like that, so. I think our representation would be important to those city council meetings. I liked it from like the first meeting coming to, different committee members coming in. It was very informative, very short, sweet. Do they have like a 5-minute, time limit on it? Very informative, key points, like, hey, this person was present, we met on this day, this is what we talked about, bingo. So I find it very effective. I think instead of having to wait to schedule a session or for our next meeting, it's something they meet twice a month. So we can definitely take those meetings, advantage of those, so I can work with you on those.
Cool. All right, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Moving on then to, item 7. I do want to quickly plug before we hear from either Tim or Joy if we have anything. Dawn went ahead and put in the agenda, this agenda packet process and timeline. Dawn, would you mind just going over this a little bit?
Sure. So this is just to give you an idea of putting the packets together. So if you have ideas for or topics that you'd like to have be discussed during your meeting, you can provide those to me. I could add them to the agenda, and then all of the agendas get ran by the chair. And so they might ask for stuff to be postponed or maybe make some adjustments to it, but at least you're being heard and possibly talk about that. So in order for all of that to happen, for your ideas to surface to get to a meeting, we would need the information from you, the suggestion, at least 2 weeks prior to your meeting. And then I get the draft agenda sent out to the chair for her or his review, either one. And then those changes are made. They just have a few days to turn around the changes, additions. They get those to me, and then the staff liaison, in this case, Mr. Wood, would review it and take a look at it. He might add something else on there or make some changes. And then I need to get it published a week before your meeting. That's pretty much it. So I guess the takeaway is get your ideas to me 2 weeks before the meeting or sooner. If you have them, just send them to me. Yeah.
So I mean, I run a scenario by you quickly. For example, we have the templates of the action plans and the survey. We're gonna review it, talk to some people, see what they think. So let's say that we come up with our draft or with some notes. Do you want us to email that to you with Chair Jane? to kind of start, yeah, communicating that, like, hey, I have this draft, this is for you to review. Then you can let me know if it's agenda worthy or not, kind of, is it okay for us to have that email interaction with each other as far as communication goes for follow-up?
You're talking two people, two members to have that discussion?
yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're working on preparing a document, as long as you're not having any deliberations, but if
Right,
you're just,
like, hey, these are my
Yeah.
notes for the coming
Yeah.
meeting or
yeah,
things like that, and, I mean, we
It's-
can, we can include all the committee members, well, I guess we can.
yeah, that gets us into the troubled waters.
Okay,
So ideally, I mean, if you're working on creating a document, I think you can do that, just two
Okay.
people. Use me as a tool as much as you want.
okay,
Yeah, if you send stuff to me, I could send it on to another person, but I mean, if you two are working together,
okay,
that
that's
seems
helpful.
really efficient, so, yeah,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dawn.
you're welcome.
Let's see, are there any, staff reports? Jim or Victoria?
I think that if we can, I think that I heard a lot of great things today, so I think that we can plug along and take small bites of the apple, kind of like we went with the, you know, shaping up great ideas and, yeah, I'm hopeful and enlightened and excited.
Thank you. Jim, any?
Just a couple of items. We do have a couple surveys going on right now. We have one on the urban growth boundary and whether the city should pursue intentional growth and expansion. And then there's also some work being done on whether we should put a pavilion in at Kaiser Rapids Park. And those are the two things. We were talking as a department head group this week of how, with these kind of things, how can we incorporate this group into that process on the front end? So I think there'll probably be some changes going forward, once you folks are in a position that you're ready to help with those kind of things. So that's all I have.
Are those surveys available now, or are they, okay, are they online?
They're currently on our website.
Okay,
On Facebook. They're all over there. I'm like, with the
okay.
city of Kaiser, yeah.
I even follow us.
Yes, you do. I just have one other note, Becca Bruising, she is on our art committee and she just came and helped with the proclamation. Rodness Ensues, with the great nonprofit organization that we have here in Kaiser to help youth. Becca asked that I mention that there's an event July 27th from 12 to 5 at Rodness Ensues in Kaiser. They're asking if anyone is from 12 to 5. So they're asking if anyone would like to volunteer and or fill a table. It sounds like the event is free, but if you would like to either help or fill a table, that's a possibility.
And it's only the name of the organization, yeah.
Yeah, it's called Radness, RADNESS, Ensues, ENSUES. But yeah, they're on socials, online.
And they did a great trick or trunk event last year, so they're great.
I will have to check on availability. I might be able to attend the event. I don't think I can commit to more than that, but I think those are good events for us to talk to people too. I know we don't have surveys out there, but you can talk to people and kind of get information that way too.
Great. Okay, well, if there's no other discussions, I'm gonna go ahead and call this meeting. It is 7:17. Meeting is
Girl, you guys. Well done.